Welcome to a journey into the heart of Romanian folklore. In today's tale, Whispers Beneath the Pines, we explore the chilling legend of the Forest Huntsman, a creature that mimics voices and wears antlers. I never planned to go back to Poiana. That crooked little village, lost in the shadow of the Carpathians, was a chapter one had long since torn from my life. But when the call came, flat, official, final, I felt something heavy sink into my chest. My mother was dead. It had been 22 years since I last set foot in that place. Long enough, I thought, for memories to fade and ghosts to settle. But as I stepped off the train at the unmanned platform, greeted by the smell of damp earth and pine, I realized nothing had changed. The air still held that peculiar thickness, as if the forest itself was breathing, and the trees, those tall, hunched silhouettes in the mist, they still watched. The cab driver didn't speak much, just glanced at me through the mirror once or twice, as if checking whether I knew what I was doing. When I gave him my mother's address, he muttered something in Romanian I didn't catch. But the way his eyes darted toward the woods told me enough that we passed the old chapel, the frozen fields, and finally the weather-beaten sign that read Bun Venit la Poiana. Welcome to Poiana. A lie, if I'd ever seen one. The house was just as I remembered it. Red-tiled roof, crumbling white plaster, the porch sagging like a tired sigh. No one met me there. No flowers on the doorstep, only silence. I unlocked the door with the key they'd mailed me, heavy, brass, cold, and stepped into the gloom. Dust hung in the air like old breath. The scent of lavender, mildew, and something else. Something sharper. I didn't sleep the first night. Just lay on the old cot in my childhood bedroom, eyes tracing the cracked ceiling. Listening. At some point near 2 a.m., I heard a sound, like dry branches scraping against the window. Then, a voice, soft, familiar, Dragomeu, my mother's voice. I didn't open the window. I didn't move. I just stared into the dark, blood pounding in my ears. She was dead. I had seen the body, yet there it was again, closer. Come outside, sweetheart. In the morning, I told myself it was the wind, the house shifting, jet lag, grief, but something inside me already knew better. The funeral was held at the old church by the hill. Fewer than 10 people came. Most of them I didn't recognize. The priest was a squat, stone-faced man who kept his eyes on the coffin, never on me. Afterward, an old man approached. Leathered skin, thick white mustache, eyes like black glass.
You shouldn't stay long.
He said, in Romanian.
Not here. Not near the forest.
I frowned. Why? His gaze flicked toward the trees.
Voices travel here, but they don't come from mouths.
He walked off before I could respond. That night, the scratching returned, but this time it wasn't just the window. There were footsteps, soft, bare, circling the house. Then, knocking. 3 sharp raps on the front door. I didn't move. I didn't speak, but something moved past the window. Tall, antlered. The next morning, I found footprints in the mud just outside the porch. Bare feet. No shoes. No boots. Just long, narrow impressions in the wet earth. They led to the forest and stopped. Poiana had always lived under the shadow of the woods. As children, we weren't allowed past the tree line. Not after what happened to Yonat. He was my best friend. We were 8. He was 9. We played together every day, chasing frogs, kicking stones, throwing pine cones at the rotting scarecrow behind old Babalupa's field. Then one morning, we went into the woods. We weren't supposed to, but boys don't listen. We followed a trail of small bones. birds, maybe squirrels, that led deeper into the pines. The forest grew quiet the further we went, as if swallowing our laughter at some point. We heard it, a voice that my voice. Yonut, this way. I found something. He ran ahead before I could stop him, turned around once, grinning, then vanished behind a wall of trees. I waited, called his name. Nothing. I ran home in tears. Told my mother what happened. They searched for 3 days. They never found him. Everyone said he must have fallen, been taken by wolves. But I knew better. I heard it. I knew what I said, what I didn't say. And when I lay awake that night, I heard it again, from outside my window. My own voice, calling me. Now, standing at the edge of the forest once more, the memories hit me like ice water. I should have stayed in the city, but I needed answers. Inside the house, I found a box tucked beneath the floorboards of my mother's room. Old, warped wood, tied shut with red twine. Inside, photographs, a hunting knife, and a notebook wrapped in plastic. The name scrawled on the cover, Ili Petres Cu. My grandfather. He had been a hunter, one of the best in the village, they used to say. But he'd vanished 2 years before Yonut. In the notebook, the entries began as mundane records, tracking boar, setting traps. Then, midway through the book, the tone shifted. We heard it again. The mimic. It takes their voices now. I shot it in the leg, blood like ink, but it vanished into the fog. They told us not to go into the pine circle. We didn't listen. Now we are hunted. It remembers. It learns. It waits. I closed the notebook. My hands were shaking. Outside, the trees swayed gently. No wind. That night, I dreamed of antlers scraping the walls and the voice of a child calling my name. I didn't open the notebook again for 3 days. During that time, I barely slept. I kept the lights on through the night, a chair propped under the doorknob like some half-forgotten ritual. But still, it came, the voices. Each night, they grew bolder. First, my mother's voice, then Yonut, then my own. Open the door. Let me in. You're not alone, are you? I started walking the village during the day, searching for anyone who might still speak to me. But doors closed when I approached. Curtains shifted. Finally, I found her, Baba Lupa. She was older now, nearly blind, her back twisted with age. But when I said my name, she didn't flinch, just looked past me toward the trees.
You brought it back.
She said.
Or maybe it never left.
I asked her what she meant. She only muttered one word.
Vanatoral.
In the local tongue, it didn't just mean a man who hunted. It was something more ancient. A force. A title that I asked her if she meant an animal. A creature. She laughed.
Not an animal. Not a spirit. Something older.
She told me a story. Long ago, a family of hunters defiled the sacred grove, the heart of the forest. They killed a stag with golden antlers said to be the forest guardian. They took its body, desecrated the land, spilled blood where none should have been spilled, and from that act, he came. A thing born not of nature, but of vengeance, not dead, not living. A beast wearing the shape of man and stag.
He doesn't chase,
she said.
He waits. He listens. And when he learns your voice, he calls you home.
The pines were part of it, she claimed. The trees whispered to him, carried sounds, shared memories.
They say the forest has roots that listen,
she whispered.
And sometimes it speaks back.
I left her house shaken, but unable to stay away. I needed to understand. So that afternoon, I walked into the woods. It was silent, not just quiet, dead silent. No bird song, no insects, not even the wind. The trees stood motionless, their trunks black with damp and age. Then I saw the circle .7 pines, older than the rest, growing in a near-perfect ring. Inside, the ground was bare. No moss, no grass, only ash-colored soil. And in the center, bones, scattered, burned, some bleached white, others fresh. As I stood there, I heard something behind me, a voice, my voice. You shouldn't have come. I spun around. Nothing. Then again, you shouldn't have come. But warped, like it had been passed through dry leaves. I ran. Back at the house, I locked every door, pushed the wardrobe against the back entrance, loaded my grandfather's hunting rifle, still mounted above the fireplace, untouched since his disappearance. I told myself I would leave. Next train. Next bus. Whatever. But when night came, the power went out. I sat in darkness. The only light came from the fire I started in the hearth. The flickering shadows twisted across the walls like they were trying to escape. Then came the knocking, not gentle, not questioning. .3 knocks. Then again, from the back door, then again, from the window, then again, from inside the walls. Voices began to overlap. My mother, Yonat, myself. They came from every direction, whispering, pleading, mocking. I screamed. I fired the rifle into the ceiling, into the hallway, into nothing. Then silence. Only the crackle of dying fire. When dawn came, I opened the front door. Laid at my doorstep was a bundle, wrapped in burlap, soaked in something dark. Inside, bird bones, deer teeth, and a child's shoe. That night, I read the rest of my grandfather's notebook. The final pages were smeared with ink and what looked like dried blood. It watches from the edge. It mimics the cries of the lost. I shot it once. Thought I killed it. But it got back up. It always gets back up. It doesn't want the body. It wants the soul to come willingly. I'm not sure what broke inside me then. Sleep deprived, haunted, cursed. I didn't care. I needed to see it. To confront it. I walked into the woods again. This time, at dusk. I carried the rifle. A lantern. And a recorder. I left the recorder running, tucked into my coat. If I didn't return. I wanted someone to know. The woods swallowed me. The further I walked, the heavier the air became. My lungs felt tight, like I was breathing through cloth. I passed the pine circle, deeper, and then there it was. Tall, antlered, human-shaped, but impossibly wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its face, no, not a face. A void, covered in bark and bone and shadow. It didn't move, just watched. Then it spoke. In my voice. You left him. My grip tightened on the rifle. It stepped forward. You let him go. The next words came in Yonat's voice. Why didn't you follow me? I pulled the trigger. The shot echoed, but the creature didn't fall. It flinched, stumbled, then straightened. From its chest, black sap oozed like tar. It laughed. Then it opened its arms, like it wanted an embrace, and behind it, another shape. A child, wearing the same clothes Yonat wore the day he vanished. Unchanged, unaged. I don't remember how I got back. One moment I was standing there, facing the thing with my brother's voice and my own echoing behind it. The next, I was stumbling out of the tree-line, face streaked with tears and mud, rifle gone. The recorder was still in my coat pocket, and it was still running. I replayed it that night. Over and over, there was static, then my own voice, panting. Then, you left him. You let him go. And then a voice that didn't belong to either of us. A rasping, layered sound, like gravel being dragged through water. You're home now. I should have left then. taken the first road out, but the house felt like it was holding me. Like if I crossed the threshold again, something inside the woods would notice. I set candles in every room, build a ring of salt around my bed. It didn't help. That night, I dreamt of the stag, its golden antlers lit with fire, its body broken and stitched together with vines and teeth. It stood in the pine circle, watching, and around it, children, faceless, chanting, "Follow, follow, follow." I woke up gasping and heard the recorder, still playing, but now it was different. The voice on it wasn't mine. That wasn't Yona Est. It was my grandfather. It wears their faces, wears their voices, but it is not them. Don't speak to it. Don't answer. It only needs you to say yes. I left the recorder running again. This time, I buried it just outside the pine circle, wrapped in cloth, hidden beneath a flat stone. Then I waited. 2 nights passed. Nothing. Then, on the third morning, I retrieved it. The battery was low, the audio was filled with static and something else. Breathing. Then footsteps. Then my voice. But I hadn't spoken. I hadn't been there. "I see you. Come closer. Say it. Say yes." I played that section over and over. Each time, something in me cracked. Not just fear, something deeper. Like a thread in my mind pulling loose. My memories started to blur. I dreamed of my childhood, but the faces were gone. Dreamed of my brother, but he had antlers. I started hearing knocking again, but now it came from inside. Inside the walls, inside the mirrors. Once, I caught my reflection lagging behind me, blinking too slowly. Another time, I saw something in the corner of the glass. Just antlers, just a silhouette. But when I turned, it was gone. I stopped trusting myself, stopped trusting the house. I went to the church. What was left of it? Only the stone foundation remained. The bell was gone. The altar collapsed. But in the center, someone, or something, had drawn a circle of black feathers and bone. Inside it, a deer skull with burned eyes. I touched it. Don't ask me why. Maybe I thought it would bring answers. Instead, it brought the voice right behind me. "Say it. Say yes." I ran, out of the church ruins, down the hill, back into the trees, and this time, the forest felt alive. Every branch I passed brushed against me like a hand. I ended up at the circle, but it had changed. There were new bones, fresh blood, and standing in the center, him, the huntsman. He was taller now, antlers tangled with leaves and fragments of skull, his body covered in robes made of hair and moss. No face. Just a blank, bark-like surface. He raised one arm and pointed at me. Then the whisper came. I in my brother's voice, I in my mother's voice, I in my grandfather's voice. All at once. Say yes. My knees buckled because some part of me wanted to let go. Believe the voice. Follow the sound. But then I remembered something. The shoe left at my door. Small. Blue. I had kept it. It was in my coat. I pulled it out, held it up, and for a moment, the creature paused. Not in confusion. I threw the shoe into the circle. The creature lowered its hand, then, without a word, turned and vanished into the trees. The circle of pines burned to ash that night. I watched it from the hill, flames licking the sky, smoke curling like fingers into the stars. I didn't call the fire department. No one did. No one would come. I left the village the next day. I don't remember the journey. I don't remember the train. Only waking up in a city I didn't recognize, hands shaking, pockets empty. The shoe was gone. So was the recorder. But sometimes, at night, I still hear the voice, not outside, not in the trees, inside me, whispering, "Say yes." I didn't speak about what happened in the village, not to friends, not to doctors. I said I'd gone for closure. A kind of emotional pilgrimage. But the truth clung to me, like ash, like something that knew how to follow. 3 weeks later, I received a package. No return address. No markings. Inside, a cassette tape. The label said only one word, scrawled in shaky pen. Yes. I didn't want to play it. God knows, I tried not to. But one night, when the shadows felt longer than usual, I gave in. The tape hissed, then silence, then a child's laughter, and my voice. "Yonut, come back. Come on." Then the huntsman's voice, not mimicking, not taunting, just speaking. "You brought it back. Now it knows the way." The sound warped, shifted into what I can only describe as breathing. But from somewhere below the floor. I stopped the tape, snapped it in half, but it was too late. That night, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I live alone, top floor, deadbolt locks, no pets, still, footsteps slow, measured, like hooves on old wood. I stopped sleeping, started seeing things in reflections again. Corners of my eyes, shadows that didn't match the light. And once, just once, I saw him again. I in the elevator mirror, antlers just brushing the top of the frame. I tried to tell myself it was trauma, that I'd spent too long steeped in superstition and grief. But then the call started. Always around 3:00 a.m., always silent, except for that last one. The last time, I answered without thinking, and a voice, my voice, whispered, "Why did you leave me?" I smashed the phone, moved to a new flat, changed cities, started therapy. It helped. For a while. I even went weeks without hearing the whispers. But then, something strange happened. My therapist asked me to describe the events of that night again. To close my eyes and recount the moment in the forest. I did, slowly, carefully, but when I opened my eyes, he wasn't writing notes anymore. He was staring, and when he finally spoke, his voice had changed. Low, layered, dry as pine bark. He said, "You shouldn't have said yes." I never went back to that office, didn't even pack up the apartment. Just left, lived out of a car for a while. Then motels, then hostels. Each time, something followed. Never right away, but always eventually. One night, in a cheap coastal motel, I was woken by tapping. Not at the door. The window. Second floor. No balcony. I opened the curtain, slowly. And there, just on the edge of the sill, a small, blue child's shoe, soaked in dew. I didn't scream. Didn't move, because behind me, in the reflection of the dark window, I saw him, the huntsman, watching, antlers curling like dead branches, face blank and black, except for the mouth, which opened and whispered, "Welcome back." I passed out. When I woke, the window was open, the shoe was gone, and in its place lay a strip of old cassette tape. That was a year ago. I don't run anymore. I don't hide, because I've realized something. This thing, this Forest Huntsman, it's not tied to a place. It's tied to me. It's not just a creature, not just folklore. It's memory, guilt, grief, all wearing a mask of bark and blood, and it feeds on the moments we regret, the silence after a goodbye, the way we turn away from those who need us, the promises we never kept. You asked me why I'm telling you this, why I came here. It's not a warning, it's a confession, because I think I finally understand that the huntsman doesn't take, that he waits. And when you're hollow enough, when you're ready to be filled with something else, all he needs is a word, just one. Yes. If the whispers still linger in your mind, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that delve into the eerie and unexplained. Until next time, beware the voices that call from the woods.